Now let's move on to talk about the native tag addressing that you have with the ControlLogix Compact Logix series from RSLogix 5000. In this case, we have what appear to be symbol names, start machine, but unlike the RSLogix 500 or the SLIC-based systems, this is not a symbol that equals N70 or whatever. The symbol is the tag. The symbol name is the tag name, and there's no equals, there's no cross-reference to that. So the advantage in ControlLogix is that those native tags can allow you to have real common language names like start machine, and in addition you can build up complex data structures so that ultimately you could have a whole machine or process defined by a single user-defined structure that contains all the parameters for that machine or process. And there are a lot of advantages to using that kind of approach. The only problem for us from a HMI perspective can be that the resulting tag names are long. You could have a tag name that is mymachine.startmachine.whatever and carry on with a big long name, and that makes it hard to type in when we're looking at using that in our HMI. So this really makes it imperative to export the tags from the RSLogix software, import them into GPPRO-EX, and then have them available from a drop-down list that will mean that we don't make mistakes in typing, etc. So the native tag structures can be broken down into what they call controller scope or global tags. That's tags that are available to the whole of the PLC project. Program scope is where you have individual programs within a single project broken down, and you use a local name which you can duplicate in other programs. We can talk about that later. Then we have the predefined structures, the bools, the strings, the reals, etc. Then we have the module defined structures. This is essentially how the ControlLogix accesses its I/O. And again, a module defined structure can have a mixture of bool, int, string, dint, etc. And then there are the user defined structures. That's where you decide that you want to create a structure that has multiple data types, multiple arrays, and are specific to your application. Now the good news is that with all this increased level of complication, we could be creating a HMI nightmare, but fortunately not for Proface. We have tackled this data structure head on and produced a really neat way to export the tag data from RSLogix, import it into GPPRO-EX, and do that really rather simply. So normally the RSLogix 5000 software, you save your project file and it has a suffix .acd, and that's a binary file. So what you can do is you can choose instead to save as and choose a file type which is .l5k, and the L5k is a text-based version of the ACD file, which means it's much easier to open up with WordPad, etc., and actually read it. You can also do an export of just the tag names to a CSV file for GPPRO-EX to import, but it's not really a good idea there, especially if you are using any of the complex data structures, the module defined structures, and so on. So if you use the L5k version of your project exported from RSLogix, then it's going to be much easier to get all of your tags, all of your data structures straight into GPPRO-EX in one fell swoop. And on the other side, in GPPRO-EX, once you've saved your project in that L5K format, what you do is you choose the version of the driver. Unlike the tag mapping, the PLC mapping version that we had before, we choose the one called native. And once we've done that, we can now import the entire L5K file into the GPPRO-EX database. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Here we have a sample application in RSLogix 5000, and as you can see, this is the ladder logic. Here are some of the tags in use: pf tag bool, etc. We want to take a full look at that list. There it is, whole series of tags. Some of them simple string, synths, reals, and then others are more complex, and we can break those out and take a look at them. These are some user-defined structures that consist of bools and ints. Other data types that are around here are the user-defined structures. There are 3 that we've defined there. There are the predefined string data types, a whole bunch of predefined data types for dealing with a variety of I/O and application situations. And then the module defined ones, which are principally the I/O data types. And if you take a look at one of these, you'll see, for example, that this is a structure for an output card that has a series of double integers or dints and a boolean, and all contained within that one data structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File and go to Save As, and here we have the default save type, which is the ACD format, the binary format. I'm just going to change that to L5K, and I'm going to overwrite one that I prepared earlier. I'm going to replace that one. I'm exporting all the tags. That's it, done. I'm going to go back to my original GPPRO-EX program, and this time I'm going to swap out the ControlLogix DF1 driver for the Ethernet IP one. That goes something like this. There's the existing PLC2, and I'm going to change the driver to native tag. As soon as I do that, I get a prompt to import a new database, which I'm going to do. And I'm going to pick the one that I had just saved. It reports that I've imported 3 user-defined structures, 37 tags, 6 aliases, and 5 module-defined structures. Now if I want to, I'm actually all done, but if I want to see how that worked out, I can go into edit mode and I can view all of the available tags that came in from the project. Say OK to that and go back to my screen. And now what I'm going to do is to go back into the PLC2 that I had. It's now undefined because I changed the tag structure, and this time when I click on PLC2, notice how the drop down menu changes. Instead of putting in N7s or bools and ints, I'm just faced with a list of all of the available tags. Notice that some of the tags are grayed out. This one is okay, it's a synt. This one is grayed out because it's a bool, and you can't use a bool in a data display. So that's kind of handy. And I can pick any element of the array. This is a 2-dimensional or even a 3-dimensional array. And I can choose element 1, bracket 2, bracket 5 or 4. And that's really all there is to it. Much simpler to use than having to remember addresses. The data structure is all in place for you. Open up a lamp. Now I'm using a bit. Choose PLC2, and this time I get access to most of the symbols, on the grounds that even with some of the integers, I can pick out a bit within an integer. So I can pick out bit 0 through 15 for that integer. And that's really the top and bottom of exporting native tags from RSLogix 5000 and importing them into GPPRO-EX and applying them. So that's the end of this module on working with AB PLC data types in GPPRO-EX. I hope you found that informative and can see that not only do we have full support for those Allen Bradley data types, but also that we make it as easy as possible to use, thereby saving you time and money in your applications. For those of you who are interested in knowing a bit more about the native tag side of the import-export options, then you may look out for that in a separate module as an addendum to this module. Thank you very much for your time. There is a short feedback survey at the end of this presentation. Its completion is optional, but it shouldn't take more than a minute to go through it. Your cooperation helps us to continue to improve our quality of service. If you have any other training questions, please email them to training@profaceamerica.com.